Before we get into today's video, I'd like to give a shout out to some of our newest subscribers. Ildrix Livy Aro, Johnny Sizemore, and female Katsuki Bakugo. Thank you all for subscribing, and welcome to the family. And now on with today's video. Greetings, my dear viewers. It is I, Drayhon, and welcome back once again to Dungeons & Dragons Character Concept Optimized, where we take a look at multi-classes and optimize them and min-max them, making them as powerful as we possibly can using the concept provided. And today we are taking a look at the anti-hero, or I guess you could call it the Oathless? Yeah, the Oathless is probably a better name than anti-hero. Anyway, this is the Paladin Rogue, another very popular multi-class build that lets you deal as much damage as you possibly can. Next to, of course, the Paladin. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Why exactly do we multi-class these two classes? Well, at the 4th level spell slot for your Divine Smite, you'll be able to deal 5d8 radiant damage. This is of course a 13th level Paladin ability, so some things are going to have to be sacrificed. Because with Sneak Attack, you get 1d6 extra weapon damage every 2 levels of Rogue that you have, with of course the maximum being 10d6 extra damage at level 19 Rogue. And with the feature Assassinate, you get advantage against targets who have yet to take a turn in combat. Additionally, any hit made against a surprise creature is a critical hit. Critical hits, of course, granting you as twice as many damage dice for the attack's damage roll. Now, the thing about surprise, and something that I forgot to mention in the Barbarian Rogue build, is that it goes in contest against a target's wisdom perception skill. It's stealth versus the passive perception. And the surprise condition only lasts for the first round of combat. Well, that's it. So this is very much exploitable by Dungeon Masters, especially if you have opposing creatures have feats like Observant and Alert as part of their stat blocks. A little homebrewy, but it is recommended to have some of these feats for your creatures. Now, with that being said, we need to take a look at our goals. As always, we have specific rules for these optimizations. We have to use the core rule books, so no Unearthed Arcana, no homebrew, no second-party or third-party materials. So I'm not allowed to use the Oath of Treachery from the Unearthed Arcana. I'm not allowed to use Kobold Press. I'm not even allowed to use Teldori Reborn, as they are not core. So we need race, background, paladin levels, fighting style, subclass, and spells. We need the rogue levels and subclass as well. And our main goals, of course, is to have a crazy high initiative to be able to surprise any creature in combat. We also have to make sure we do not miss our attacks, and we have to have maximum smiting capabilities. We need to roll as many dice as possible when we crit. So, starting things off with the race. Now, I thought that the Astral Elf, Eladrin, and Shadakai were perfect for this because of their ability that is very similar to the Misty Step spell. But most importantly, the Shadakai had the most powerful of the three because of their version Blessing of the Raven Queen. Not only do you have your bonus action to magically teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space that you can see, and you can use a straight number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, but starting at 3rd level, you also gain resistance to all damage types when you teleport using the straight, which is amazing. You also have your Fey Ancestry, Keen Sisters, Necrotic Resistance, which is pretty good, and your Trance feature. Not to mention your Dark Vision of 60 feet is pretty good as well. But there was a race that was better suited for this build, and that was the Bugbear. Not only does it also have Dark Vision and Fey Ancestry, but it has 2 features that are perfect for this build, and that is the Longed Limb feature, Sneaky to give yourself proficiency in stealth, and the Surprise Attack. Long Limbed gives you a +5 on reach for all of your melee weapons, which is definitely very useful. But that Surprise Attack is very much perfect for this build, as if you hit a creature with an attack roll, the creature takes an extra 2d6 damage if it hasn't taken a turn in the current combat. So, round 1, if you're able to surprise your target, you have a lot of damage going out for you. And one thing I would have loved to do is have the double-bladed scimitar with the Revenant Blade feat, which is why I wanted to go for an elf, as we would have been able to do a 2d4 instead of a 1d8. However, the better option, of course, as always, with a rogue build, is to dual-wield scimitars, as we get a 1d8 on each attack roll, versus the Revenant Blade double-bladed scimitar having a 2d4 on the first attack and a 1d4 on the second attack. Unfortunate, but what can you do? Moving on to background. Next we need the Knight of Solamnia from the Shadow of the Dragon Queen, which gives us proficiency in athletics and survival in 2 languages of our choice. But we also get Squire of Solamnia as our feature, which gives us the feat, Squire of Solamnia, which has the ability Precise Attack, which we can use it to gain advantage on that attack, and if we do, we get to add a 1d8 to that damage roll, which means our damage for this one attack using a Rapier, a Bugbear, and the Knight of Solamnia gives us 1d8 plus our Dexterity modifier plus an additional 1d8 and an additional 2d6. Pretty good stats if I say so myself. Moving on to our Paladin, we are going to have to start off with Paladin, even if we were going level by level, as it does give us the proficiency of heavy armor if we ever wanted to use it. Though I would not recommend it since we need to be able to be as stealthy as possible, so I would recommend the studded leather armor, since it will best work with our high dexterity. We'll need 12 levels of Paladin with the fighting style Blessed Warrior, giving us 2 cantrips from the Cleric spell list, Sacred Flame and Toll the Dead. We will need the Sacred Oath, Oath of the Watchers, which is definitely very interesting in terms of having a campaign set in Dragonlance, Oath of the Dragon Queen, as you are technically trying to stop Tiamat from coming to the material plane. So yeah, it kind of fits from a story standpoint as well as a mechanic standpoint. Now, your Oath spells are going to be Alarm, Detect Magic, Moonbeam, See Invisibility, Counterspell, and Non-Detection. You also get your Channel Divinity, Watcher's Will, and Abjure Extraplanar. Now, Watcher's Will is actually a very good feature, as it's very similar to the Vedalken's Vedalken Dispersion, which is why we do not see it in our race options. But we also have Order of the Sentinel, which allows us to, quote, when you and any creatures of your choice within 10 feet of you roll initiative, you all gain a bonus to initiative equal to your proficiency bonus. Which is very helpful. That's a +6 at level 20. So we already have a pretty good initiative going for us. And not to mention that we now have the capability of going for a 3rd level spell slot on our Divine Smite, adding to our damage. 1d8, dexterity modifier, an extra 1d8, 2d6, and a 4d8. It's a lot of damage from one attack. We are going to be dual wielding, so that means we have the ability to do even more damage on that secondary attack. Moving on to Rogue, we need 8 levels of Rogue, and we're going with the Roguish archetype Assassin, giving us that Assassinate feature that we mentioned not too long ago. We also get bonus proficiencies in the Poisonous Kit and Disguise Kit. And of course, we also have that Sneak Attack feature, giving us an extra 4d6. And thanks to our Assassinate feature, if we manage to surprise, we get a critical hit, which means that we get to multiply the number of damage dice that we are dealing. Not the dexterity modifier. I forgot to ixnay that out of there. But that means you get a grand total, including the critical hit, a grand total of 12 d8s and 12 d6s of damage. That is a lot of damage. Then you get to add your dexterity modifier onto that because of the finesse feature of the rapier. Very, very nice. Moving on to feats. Since we are talking about Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen, we get a free feat at 4th level. And I would recommend getting the Martial Adept feat for that to give us access to Ambush and Lunging Attack. Lunging Attack giving us an extra 5 feet on our attack, and we also get to add a 1d6. But also, the Alert feat, Dual Wielder and Piercer are going to be very important. With the Alert feat, we get +5 to our initiative, and we ourselves cannot be surprised. Like I said, Ambush and Lunging Attack are very good maneuvers. Ambush, of course, being able to add a d6 to our initiative, or to any stealth checks that we make. Then, of course, you have the increased damage from Piercer, which is an additional 1d8 when we make a critical hit. So that means we have 1, 2, 3, 7, be 14, plus the extra d6 we're getting from Lunging Attack. There's another 7, would be 14 there, 14d8 and 14d6. Multiply that by 2. Well, that's already multiplied. That's going to add your dexterity modifier on top of that. A lot of damage. Additionally, you have your initiative being your d20 plus your dexterity modifier, which should be a 5 at this point. We also have +5 from the Alert feat, plus a total of 6 from the Order of the Sentinel, and a 1d6 from Ambush, giving us an average of 30 for our initiative roll. That's pretty speedy. Unless your opponent also does not have the Alert feat, you are going to be surprising them. Keep that in mind. But imagine going over to an encampment of an enemy army, and every single one of the soldiers is surprised, except for the leader. Now that is a good little encounter right there. Now, before we end this video, we need spells. We don't get that many spells, but it's not like we'll be using them anyway, am I right? Recommended spells, we have Divine Favor, Purify Food and Drink, and Shield of Faith. At second level, we have Aid and Branding Smite. And our third level spell is going to be Crusader's Mantle. And with that being said, I do hope that you enjoyed. Tell me in the comment section below what type of characters you would make for a Paladin Rogue multi-class. Until next time, this has been Drehan, and I am offline.